Hey guys, welcome to the Casual NBA Fanatic Podcast. I'm your host, Henry Monahan, and as we enter the off-season, after what has been a tremendously unique NBA season, featuring huge roster shakeups, some all-time memorable playoff moments, some dominant regular season teams, and some all-time individual player campaigns, we now find ourselves just one day removed from the first round of the NBA draft, which in itself has had its own flair. We've seen a multitude of storylines, tremendous talents entering our league just next season. I thought it would be a decent start to talk about the top 10 selections, guys who bring so much variance in their talents, as every draft does. You have your players with high ceilings and low floors. You have your guys who have the maturity and develop skill sets from the get-go, and then you have your low ceiling, high floor prospects who can contribute almost immediately out the gate. And with the number one pick, the Dallas Mavericks selected Cooper Flagg. I don't think there was any hesitancy with this pick. He comes out of Duke as one of the greatest freshmen that we've ever seen in general, averaging 19 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2.8 stocks per game on 48, 39, 84 splits. He comes out with a 30.4 PER, 16.3 box plus minus, and an 8.4 win share mark, which all led the conference in the ACC for him. He claimed the Naismith, Wooden, and AP Player of the Year awards as well. Exceptional freshman season from the 18-year-old, who will be 18 at the start of the season as well, incredibly young, turns 19 in December. He brings a 6'8", 220-pound frame, considerably a bit more weight than expected, which was marked at the combine. 7-foot wingspan. He brings a 35-inch vertical. He ranked 8th in the lane agility run as well. Very, very decent foot speed metrics as well out of the draft combine in what is a very tantalizing draft prospect that we have. Overall, for Cooper Flagg, he's one of the most complete, versatile, impacting prospects of all time. The off-ball traits that he has on both ends make him an absolute portable machine for any NBA team. And for Dallas's case, they should be very happy because he's going to contribute to winning basketball almost instantly in any role they try to give him. He just masters versatility of every essence. He's a super mature, team-oriented basketball player who prioritizes quality on any possession that he has, whether it's defensively or offensively. He's always looking to attack the rim, to be able to make reads for others, to be able to provide help side rim protection. He's got absolutely developed vision. He's got real passing advantages as well. He prioritizes the over-the-top stuff to be able to get those easier passing windows for himself as a 6'8" point forward prospect. The shooting mechanics have come quite far from high school, and at 18, it's a pretty scary base that he has already. And he's got the athletic advantages as a pull-up jump shooter. We talk about the insane elevation, the high release point tools that he has, really fluid motion at the moment. He's an elite defensive talent. We've all heard too much about it. I'm very unsure, though, for the start of his career about the effectiveness as a big just yet, if he's going to be plugged in as a big and as a primary weak side help rim protector. But sometimes he can over-gamble. He's a little bit overly ambitious sometimes. But he certainly has a future as a top-tier weak side and safety disruptor on the perimeter. Great overall instincts, exceptional timing, exceptional vertical pop as well, which is the thing that stands out with him. Cooper will be an absolute excellent perimeter defender in isolation as well. Screen navigation hasn't really been tested enough just yet, but he has the lateral speed and anticipation of a guard in a frame that is very, very intriguing. But he brings far more than just athleticism to the table. His mindset and intensity are so scary. For someone only being 18 years old, he's got so much experience behind him as well. And his base skill set at this age allows him to already blend into most situations, let alone for Dallas's physical and athletic makeup that they've been trying to lean into over the last year. And after a few crucial development years for Dallas, I think he'll be one of the best impacting players in our league, marking versatility at the highest level. Dylan Harper comes in at the second pick for San Antonio, coming out of Rutgers, averaging 19, 5, and 4, with 2 stocks per game, 48, 34, 75 splits. He comes in with a very productive 24.6 PER, 9.8 box plus minus, only claiming 3.9 win shares in what was a disappointing season for Rutgers overall, but not for this star. Comes in with 6'5" and a strong built 210-pound frame. He attaches that with a 6'11" wingspan, 36.5-inch vertical. Pretty average metrics in terms of the agility plus speed, but this guy is one of the best shot creators in the draft and one of the best shot creators that we've seen in a little while. Overall, Dylan has a pretty high base floor for what he can be, but the ceiling of a superstar perimeter creator for me is in question. I just think there's an absence of either true perimeter strength or perimeter speed at the moment. Though what does intrigue me and what encourages me is his use of agility-based shot-creating tools that he already has developed in his arsenal. We're talking about the change of direction, the change of pace, the counters, the wingspan to be able to accentuate those handles a little bit more, to be able to hunt downhill lanes as much as you can. That is what's encouraging about Dylan Harper. The jumper mechanics are pretty average. He's got a bit of a line drive type of form, and he gets limited elevation on those pull-up looks as well. But the talent and overall shot touch is there to a certainly decent degree. For Dylan, the best part about him is that he's always hyper-aggressive in downhill pursuit. That's such a mature trait that he does have. And overall, he gets downhill very, very swiftly. He has enough agility to sneak into tighter lanes and angles, and his shot creation counters and his go-to moves are pretty well developed at the moment. He just needs some more touch-ups on, the explosion off them as well. Being able to explode off those change of directions as well. He mixes and chains together counters really productively. But it's not just with the handle itself. It's more about his ability to use other aspects such as head fakes and other advanced misdirection tools involving feet angles on his drives as well that make him such a special talent here. He's got the sufficient length to be able to grant him more finishing angles as well. He has more length as well on that release around the rim that helps him avoid more recovery length from screen navigators. He's a very sound pick and roll downhill penetrator, he's able to snake and split pick and rolls with ease. He's got a really nice knifing frame here, and his attacking timing is absolutely perfect. The isolation game, for the time being, probably won't translate as well to the NBA right now. He's got pretty shaky jumper mechanics, as we spoke about just before. He lacks athletic advantages to the NBA standard required. And also on that jumper as well, he doesn't accentuate any sort of athletic gifts there either. And he's not exceptional at creating separation either. But the thing is, he's only 19 years old in what is a relatively very youthful draft class. In the future years, as Dylan will put on more size and onto that frame, he'll become more explosive as well. That's through the general training in any NBA system that he'll be a part of, let alone the San Antonio organization. And he's got enough of a signature advantage as a shot creator, which is the agility. He just doesn't have that strength or speed just yet, which I hope he will develop soon after. He's a decent enough passer, and he can get by leading a decent volume of offensive possessions, in my opinion. But the sharpness of his reads does need to be keyed in on if he does want to be a lead initiator in the NBA. Overall, he's pretty cognitively sound as a basketball player and extremely intelligent when identifying those angles and downhill lanes for himself. Probably needs to translate this into a bit more advanced passing window identification as well, being able to make those reads when they present themselves with a bit more sharpness as well. And I'm only nitpicking here because in this league, you need to be an exceptional passer and you need to be an exceptional creator, either or, to be able to flourish in this league as a lead creator. The ball movement initiation piece on the skip passes, your cross-court reads, not overly developed yet, something for him to work on, hopefully seated next to Chris Paul. Hopefully if Chris Paul's still there, that will add to his very already credible base skill set. Defensively, there's not much to say. He's a very decent contributor. He's got reliable screen navigation, agility as well. Decent strength levels defensively, though he may be hunted in the NBA level 2 start. I think the league will try and test how technically sound he actually is at dodging more complex screen actions. But he's obviously got the length and he's got the fast vertical speed to offer recovery assurance in those situations too. Dylan Harper, as a prospect, should grow to be an extremely mature basketball contributor. About being a star, I'm not too sure yet. That depends on really just the work ethic to grow that, either the athletic touch or the physical trait that he will have to bring as that imprint onto the game as a shot creator. And obviously polishing the jumper and vision will be huge for him, but in terms of the base skill set and the floor that he already brings as a point guard, he's extremely talented, and the Spurs should be very happy with this pick. The Philadelphia 76ers, in need of any ounce of winning impact at the moment with injuries to Paul George and Joel Embiid, take VJ Edgecombe with the third pick from Baylor, freshman averaging 15.6 rebounds, 2 steals a game, shot 44, 34, 78 splits, came out with a 22.1 PER and 11.4 box plus minus and 4.8 win shares. As a freshman, 19 years old at the moment, VJ is, but he's going to be turning 20 at the end of July. In terms of the build and archetype that he brings, he's a 6'4", 193-pound wing, extreme size that he has in terms of the muscular impact on his frame, 6'8" wingspan. He brought the 10th best mark in the max vertical in the combine, 38.5 inches, as a freak explosive athlete. In VJ Edgecombe, Philadelphia are getting maybe the most talented athlete in the draft by far. Though this provides relatively intriguing baseline for him, I do think he tends to over-rely too much on his athletic attributes. That kind of diminishes his effectiveness. And he has a bit of a lack of attention to detail with his footwork, his counter moves, and he hasn't really untapped that agility potential that he has with the athletic makeup that he does have. Though the prospect for him to contribute as that off-ball offensive piece is very convincing. I like the spot-up shooting mechanics. I like the spacing movement. It's all very good at the moment. And he offers a ton as a transition disruptor defensively and offensively as well. He's got the lightning speed and vertical explosion on both ends of the floor. On my part, I think his role in the future he'll be a key advantage extender for any team that he plays for. He'll have to be a high-level play finisher as well for any team that he plays for if he wants to be a starter in this league. He's got to become a bit more comfortable as a ball handler and finisher in traffic overall. I think he's got to grow out a bit more dexterity, especially on his right hand. That's very central as well if he wants to have more second side shot creating chops in the future. Defensively for VJ, he competes at a high level always. He's got the lateral explosiveness to match and contend most perimeter guards in the league, and he'll be able to do this against the stars in the league if he can grow that lateral anticipation aspect a bit more as well. He'll be able to guard guards and wings pretty soundly. He's got this intensified aggression that he plays with, which, if he grows out the defensive attention to detail, he will be a real psychologically anxiety-provoking player. In the most case, I don't think VJ will become like a star in this league as like an initiator, but he certainly can be one of the best off-ball second side guards with his ability to affect the game off-ball as an athlete. And he does this on the glass. He does this in transition on both ends of the floor to an exceptional level already. Everything for VJ is mildly established. I think his drive and determination as a competitor will certainly carry him in his development as a positive contributor, but he's going to have to be an extremely positive off-ball player in his career to satisfy this third pick. After the first three picks, it gets pretty tricky. Obviously, Ace Bailey was rejecting a lot of trainings and a lot of draft workouts with a lot of teams, and he probably is in the top 4 in terms of the talent side in this draft, but the Charlotte Hornets end up taking one of my favorites in the draft, Kon Knueppel, out of Duke. Averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Very decently productive, but in terms of the efficiency, 64.2% true shooting. He led the conference in free throw percentage at 91%, shot 41% from 3 on very decent volume. Came in with a 21.3 PER and a 10.8 box plus minus, claiming 6.9 win shares a game. Made the NCAA All-Region team as well. Comes in with the archetype of being a 6'5", 220-pound framed wing. He only has a 6'6" wingspan. He's about to turn 20 years old as he enters his first season, and not too exceptional of an athlete. He did have a 36.5-inch vertical, but in terms of the speed and agility stuff, nothing to really be super convinced by. But Kon Knueppel overall, just an extraordinary shooter. That's just the first thing, obviously, that pops out with this guy. He brings immense value immediately off the bat with his intelligence as an off-ball impactor. You don't see many guys who can read the game off-ball that much, but also have the credible gravity that he does have already coming into the league. He gives any team just more supplements of like movement shooting at a high level. He's got a flawless jump shot and like catch and shoot routine, exceptional footwork, just balanced squared frame. He angles his flares off screens really well, so he angles his defenders really well off ball screens. And that allows him to rise and fire with his fast and pristine shot mechanics. Absolutely picture-perfect jump shooter already off the catch. His offensive feel as well as a creator is pretty solid. He gets downhill decently well at the college level, and he understands how to use his bulkier size and strength to be able to protect that handle and get to the rim against average defenders at least. Overall, though, he's going to be limited majorly by the athleticism. That will be the defining factor of whether he does become a star role player or not. Obviously, this also translates to the defensive end. It's generally fine at the moment, but he works decently hard, but he's going to struggle. He doesn't have much lateral agility to be able to dodge ball screens, and he doesn't have much in the recovery skill set. He's got a pretty bare wingspan, as we spoke about before, and he has a lack of vertical pop. So he will be subject to a lot of mismatch attacking and mismatch hunting in the modern NBA. He does have the core strength and intelligence to grow as a respectable guy on that end, so that shows a bit of optimism for Charlotte, but I think Charlotte's really shown that they want their DNA to be very, very high, impacting offensively next year, as they really are leaning into the LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and now Kon Knueppel core that they have. And certainly this guy will impact that end. I mean, he will impact half-court offense at a very high level relative to everyone else in the draft. Especially immediately, he brings a decent level of maturity and a lot of determination and hard work to this Charlotte Hornets franchise. I mean, he's got the most polished shooting touch overall out of anyone this draft, and that's something to really be really enthused about. He has a bit of more over-the-top size, so he has that Reed Shepherd sort of pristine shot making. He just has a bit more size and a bit more off-the-dribble juice, I reckon, because he's got a bit more strength to him to be able to overcome stronger athletes a little bit more than Reed could. You know, the passing is very decent as well. Very decent passing chops, unselfish second-side shot creator, and he's already got established floor gravity as soon as he enters the NBA stage. Charlotte should be very happy with this pick. You pick a mature guy who's going to bring a lot of that hardworking, winning DNA to the roster, which is something that they've lacked with their current draftee picks. And at number 5, to round out the first half of the top 10, the Utah Jazz select the highly anticipated Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, who averaged 18, 7, and 2.3 stocks a game, 46, 35, 69 splits, which only came to about 53.6% true shooting, 19.9 PER, 2.8 win shares only, and 4.5 box plus minus. Rutgers wasn't a very good college this year, but they did have two of the biggest stars and headliners in this draft. The archetype for Ace Bailey, he brings a 6'8", 203-pound frame, very light but very bouncy. He brings a 7'1" wingspan, and he brings a 34.5 max vert. He's only 18 years old at the moment, turning 19. He demands a lot, and maturity is a big thing for him that he's going to have to develop a lot more in that Utah locker room as well. I think Utah's a very established and mature organization, so hopefully they can get to him on that front and find ways for him to impact winning in more ways than he's anticipating himself. Ace Bailey, though, the talent, he's a super high ceiling prospect. He brings that fiery, tough shot making, and he has that exceptional pull-up jumper. The mechanics are pretty pristine overall. Just a lot of stuff to be tantalized about already. Certainly a prospect who does need the keys to a franchise from day one, which is what he wanted, and that's why he was rejecting a lot of draft workouts with a lot of franchises, and probably what Utah will give him. But his skill development and general basketball IQ and feel for the game do need to improve dramatically, and I think he only has about 1 or 2 seasons to really put together like a drastic development curve, because we know how talented this league is and how fast talent rinses and repeats in these drafts. I mean, he's got to really prove that he's worth the investment very, very fast, especially with how much he demands and how much he's expecting Utah to give up for him. Ace Bailey, he's got the possibility to contribute defensively as a help side rim protector, who'll probably find his footing though more as a versatile perimeter switching piece. Definitely needs a bit more size to be able to shed defenders on the perimeter as a shot creator. He doesn't have that ability to create those physically driven bits of separation on the perimeter yet. It's not evident at the moment. Obviously, a bit more size will help with that. The fast release and over-the-top release point ensure that he does have an advantage against majority of his matchups in the future. He can lean onto that rise-up release point, being able to be a pretty advantageous piece. He's an excellent athlete who does weaponize this in his jump shooting for sure. He gets amazing elevation. He actually has very nice footwork and balance in his rise-ups, off movement as well. Big thing with him though is that he doesn't get to the rim a ton at all. He does have a very athletic frame, but he doesn't get to the rim much at all. He doesn't have elite footwork variations as a downhill player. He tends to settle a lot for those jump stop pop shots in the intermediate zone. He favors those running hooks, those tough teardrops a bit more. But overall, to be honest, being able to show off and showcase those types of looks, it illustrates more of that insane shooting touch talent that he does have. And he gets clean angles close to the rim because of the elevation pop, and that's why he does favor those tougher but decently efficient looks at near closer to the rim. In terms of the passing, he's pretty poor. There's not much to say about it. He needs to jack up real NBA volume reps if he wants to be a lead initiator. He needs to fix up and develop that mindset as well as an offensive initiator at a very fast rate. He won't be big enough to be a big stabilizing post worker, so being able to create as a driving kick feeder is probably a big thing for him to work on early in his career. Yes, the shot palette doesn't favor towards favorable team offenses, or he doesn't lean towards efficient shot hunting, which is usually a requisite factor and requisite trait for some of the best players and biggest superstars in the league, but he does bring a certain talent that we don't see frequently. So gambling with this sort of upside is certainly but it is a worthy franchise investment for Utah, and I do think they made the right choice by picking Ace Bailey with the 5th pick. And with the 6th pick, we had Washington draft Tre Johnson out of Texas, who was a freshman who led the SEC in points and minutes. He averaged 23 and 3 on 43, 40, 87 splits with a 19.7 PER, 7.7 box plus minus, and 4.2 win shares. Tre Johnson brings a 6'5", 190 pound slim frame with a 6'10 wingspan. Super bouncy. He tied first in the lane agility with 10.49 seconds at the draft combine. Pretty average in terms of the speed in the combine, but he also brings about just under a 38-inch vertical to the team. In terms of the outlook on this draft selection, Tre Johnson overall is one of the best offensive players in the draft, no doubt. But for most people, it was how can you contribute defensively, which is something that was not shown or displayed at Texas. Overall for Tre, he brings positive impact as a prospect because of the stuff that he does off the ball offensively. That makes up for a lot of the stuff that he has as limitations defensively, and that makes him interesting for the future. And teams, I think, will be relying more on his perceived high level of maturity to be able to allow him to grow as a defender in the future. Very mature, very hard work, high work ethic, and he's also got length as well. He's got a lot of bouncy athleticism that also might make him a piece, especially considering most of his defensive issues will reside more in the cognitive lapses and concentration and attentiveness. Now, the offense for Tre is absolutely pure. He's by far the best tough shot maker and the best pull-up scorer in this draft. He can rain jumpers from absolutely everywhere on the floor, and he does that on an absurd degree of difficulty. There is a true value as well with being someone that's so great of a movement shooter. especially when you bring this with your movement patterns as well. When you can open up lanes with your gravity, which is something that he did do on the college level for Texas. The playmaking, though, never really popped off. He did prove a basic ability to be able to make driving kicks, some simple and basic connective playmaking when plays were initiated for him. But the passing is something ultimately that does lack in his game and holds back his overall offensive skill set. And also another drawback with his offense is that he's also not the greatest at attacking the rim. Pretty slim frame, and that really holds him back in this aspect because he can't go into contact confidently. Instead, he prefers to settle for more over-the-top fades out of the post, especially when his angles end up getting walled off. This lack of rim pressure kind of holds back the ultimate ceiling for Tre at the moment. Obviously, there can be a lot of development. This is just the flaws that he has coming into the league, especially when most of these prospects, you're expecting them to be able to contribute straight away and offer impact straight away. Obviously, Washington's a different situation. They have time for Tre to develop, but he's going to really need to develop here. I think the weight room really seems like the only thing holding him back and the only thing that he really needs to work on in terms of filling out that frame as much as possible. He has the agility. He's got the bouncy feet to have success in the future as a rim pressure, but also as a defender. So that's something that he's going to really need to key on to in his first few developmental years. The handles, offensively, extremely fluid, especially considering he does have a 6'10 wingspan for a 6'5 frame. And in terms of the handles, he throws together really nice combinations off the catch, super decisive scoring mindset as well. Channeling this mindset towards a more team-orientated approach will be key, but Washington overall get themselves a potential offensive weapon for their rotation. A guy that will provide a ton more general spacing on and off the ball, especially to their core, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, Bilal Coulibaly, who are all pretty streaky on that end of the floor. And he will go in as by far the most talented offensive player that they do have. And with the 6th pick, the New Orleans Pelicans selected Jeremiah Fears, guard out of Oklahoma, who had an extremely productive freshman year, averaging 17, 4 and 4, just under 2 steals a game, 56% true shooting, and a 20.7 PER. He brings the archetype build of a 6'3", 180 pound, decently strong and muscular as that guard. He's very aggressive downhill with the physicality. 6'5" wingspan, nothing overly special there. But in the draft combine, he brought a 36.5-inch vertical with a 3.05 second three-quarter sprint. For reference, that ranked 3rd in the entire draft combine. So he does have the initial speed advantage to make him a special offensive player in this league. Jeremiah Fears, overall, one of the most mature downhill creators that we've had in the recent years in these drafts. Just a guy who has legitimate speed advantages on the perimeter. He also has the entire pace and direction altering toolbox that you need. He's got the insane handles. He's got the explosive footwork as well off those pit and jump stops to allow him to get that first step with absolute ease against any defender. We talk about the finishing skill set. It may be the best in the draft so far. He can finish on either hand, and he can finish on some really difficult angles as well. We saw him go a lot from high glass and a lot of offhand stuff to get contact finishes in traffic as well. Just super talented around the rim. And the thing that separates him as an offensive guard is really the aggressive intensity that he has. He's not afraid of physicality, which makes him extremely appealing. Just a trait that we've seen in stars like Jalen Brunson and TJ McConnell that have made them successful undersized guards, being able to penetrate and use your nimbleness and use your speed advantages to get downhill and hunt greater shots for you, but also not being afraid to go into contact and to draw contact as well. The passing for Jeremiah is relatively weak at the moment, especially for a starting point guard role, which he'll be trying to carve out for himself early. But obviously this stuff comes with experience. It's very experience dependent. He's going to get a ton of reps and development in the NBA system, especially for New Orleans, who just got rid of CJ McCollum, and they're, who knows what they're going to do with DeJounte Murray next. Having that time in the NBA system will obviously mend this through. As of now, though, the passing accuracy and execution is pretty weak for a starting point guard. Turnover rate was pretty high. I think he averaged 3.4 turnovers a game for only 4.1 assists a game. And fixing this up is really a must if he wants to be a great advantage creator in this league one day. but the potential is surely there. The shooting mechanics, he shot 28% from 3, so very rough in terms of the touch so far, but the shooting mechanics overall are pretty swift and extremely fluid themselves. And that's a convincing aspect for the potential development here. Obviously, the 28% on 4 attempts a game is pretty poor at the college level. We've seen the potential, though. It's clearly visible for him. He boasted an 85% mark at the free throw line as well, so the touch and form is clearly there. Defensively for Fears, he brings his competitiveness and this intensity to the game, but he needs to channel this more towards skillful and technical lateral agility. Becoming an elite screen navigator will be where he makes his mark defensively, and that will be his biggest asset in the future. He's got the foot speed, he's got the physical will to hassle and contain smaller ball handlers as well. But again, reps in the NBA system will be what allows him to develop this trait of his defensive game. Bringing that physical edge as well defensively will be something that he might be able to do in the future. He'll be able to make bigger wings feel uncomfortable. He brings that lower center of gravity. He brings some quick hands to the game as well. And he, in this sense, he'll be able to survive a lot of mismatch attacking in the future. But all of this stuff, from talk about the team-based decision making that he lacks. You talk about the off-the-dribble shooting touch. You talk about the defensive value. It's all pretty raw at the moment. But New Orleans should be pretty happy. They've picked a guy who can instill some energy into this Pelicans locker room. He adds another small shot creator that replaces CJ McCollum, and he's one of the most mature downhill creators that we've seen in the draft in recent years. And with the 8th pick, the Brooklyn Nets selected Egor Demin out of BYU, big guard coming from Moscow, Russia, who had a decently productive year. He averaged 11, 4, and 6 for BYU on 41, 27, 70 splits. He brings a 6'8", 200-pound frame to the game, a 6'10" wingspan, relatively below average athlete overall, a 32-inch vertical that he brought. But that's not what Egor Demin is known for. Egor is one of those typical high-ceiling, high-floor players who can blossom into a star initiator if everything goes right for him. And the base that he has coming into the league already is very, very decent, especially coming in as an 8th pick. He's one of the smartest drivers in this draft. You think of guys like Jeremiah Fears and Dylan Harper, what he brings as a downhill pressure, extremely smart and with an insanely complex understanding of angles for his size. He blends a nice crisp mix of extreme balance, some really nice size, composure, and he's proven a real ability to throw in some agility-based counters with some misdirection corks as well. He's probably the best in this draft that I've seen at using head and ball fakes to his advantage, which is extremely smart and intelligent shot creating. The timing, though, of his creation abilities is what's special about him. From the counters, the pick and roll use, the passing and timing of his downhill releases and lays around the rim, he'll just attain a ton of quality, and he did that at the college level as well. But he's also an extremely talented passer, which is where the bulk of the intrigue comes from. As a passer, he brings the giddy advantages. He's got the size, he's got the over-the-top passing windows that are present to him. But he also has the Josh Giddey-like audacity to be able to make those bullet reads in the half court, which is really valuable for NBA teams, as we saw for OKC in Giddey's first 2 years prior to being traded. He contributes as that connective passer, but most of his stuff is really just done on ball. He loves the wraparound reads. He's got elite pocket passing talent to him, and that accentuates the pick and roll powers that he brought to the college level. He's truly one of the most gifted vision-based creators as well. He's got elite spatial awareness, and his continuous updating vision on the floor of where his teammates are located on the court is extreme. So yes, the ceiling of his offensive talent is very, very decent. It's extremely high, but there do come limitations with the prospect like Egor, and reasons why he was such a polarizing selection in this draft. First off, the jumper is pretty woeful. He shot 27% from 3 on very decent volume, a sub 70% shooter from the free throw line as well. Overall, though, the mechanics are what is to be enthused by for someone with such low percentages and such a low mark. He has a fast and polished rise up. His release is pretty decent. And it's something that, a guy like Josh Giddey didn't really have when he got drafted and had to develop in time. He's shown an ability to make some real tough shots on a multitude of different looks and angles on the perimeter as well. Talk about looks in movement, in spot-up situations, being able to hit balanced step-back looks as well. So in terms of the development potential for the jumper to come along, I think the Nets should be pretty optimistic. They have a ton to be optimistic about in this situation because he already has the mechanics pretty much down pat. But it does, at the moment, severely limit the floor that he has from the get-go in this league. Defensively, the stuff is generally fine. I see him contributing more towards team-orientated defensive schemes. He can disrupt plays as a decent rotation decision-maker as well. Reads the game fairly well offensively, and this kind of translates to his ability to read actions and advantage points for opposing offenses. He was able to get his hands involved often in passing lanes and when doubling the post as well. He's got a 6'10 wingspan as well, which is favourable for him. But the speed and athletic limitations will be what does hold him back for sure defensively. Especially as well because he's going to be attacked by physical bigs. Speedy guards are probably going to go at him ruthlessly as he starts his NBA debut. And he just lacks general size on the defensive end, and he doesn't have the same fast twitch speed to match up with guards. And laterally, he's not the most polished guy either. But this guy's being drafted because of his ceiling offensively and what he can contribute to a team, hopefully in a few years of crucial development. Overall for the Nets, this guy just gives them something to be extremely optimistic about now. They finally have a guy with true elite star potential on the offensive end. He's extremely gifted on that end of the floor, and it will be an extreme point of aggression talent. And for the 9th pick, the Toronto Raptors selected Collin Murray-Boyles. 2 years spent at South Carolina, and in his sophomore season, extremely productive. He averaged 17 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2.8 stocks per game. Led the SEC in field goal percentage and effective field goal percentage at 59%, and he boasted a 27.8 PER with an 11.9 box plus minus, making the All-SEC team in his second year. He brings a 6'7", 240-pound frame to the game. He brings a 7'1" wingspan, 12th best shuttle run in the draft combine. Not overly athletically gifted because of the size and strength that he brings to the game, but this is a truly powerful athlete. Collin Murray-Boyles is your traditional post-up forward. He's one of those guys that has that super fiery and intense motor, and that enables him to overcome, the physical and athletic traits that he doesn't really have in his toolbox at the moment. At the moment, he projects to be a quality role player whose ceiling looks more closer to a Draymond Green as that post playmaking fulcrum that he might be able to eventuate to become. And that's only if he's given the trust to be able to develop into that mold. He loves scoring at the rim with physical will. That was his go-to in college. Not many guys are as relentless at generating rim pressure like Murray-Boyles is, especially as a big. And he uses that extreme upper body strength to battle and fight for positioning off ball as well to receive favourable post entries. But also he fights for positioning on the ball so well where he can make his claim against guards and wings as he was a primary mismatch attacker for South Carolina. The passing though was the highlight I think that Toronto saw in him. They've added multiple passing wings to their lineup. Why not add another one? The top of the key initiating the post passing will allow most teams to be able to run movement around him. And he has enough strength to make those bullet reads as well with enough accuracy that we saw for South Carolina. And he's also great at making those short reads. I mean, he's one of the most active roll men at the college level last year, and his ability to reward secondary cutters is pretty great. And as a roll man, he brings those general speed advantages against most bigs, so he is very productive as an off-ball mover around the key. He is turnover prone, but the ceiling for Murray-Boyles comes from the overall passing traits that he may be able to bring in the future. He's got the size and strength as well to get those over-the-top passing windows. He's got the strength to be able to make those bullet reads as well in traffic. Defensively, though, is a very big strong point for him. Extremely tough, and a guy that can really battle with wings and bigs extremely well for his size as well. He's laterally developed. He's got that level of intensity as well that will allow him to thrive on the perimeter and makes him extremely disturbing to create dribble penetration against. His player tracking, his ability to stay attached on drives is very, very developed and mature as well, but that intensity and motor does carry him a long way. He proved to be also a worthy rim protecting piece, and this is where the versatility comes in for Murray-Boyles. For South Carolina, he was really good at being able to run drop as well as that small ball lineup big. He's got the mobility. He can actually potentially anchor some small ball lineups for Toronto as they might lean into more of that Barrett Barnes and Murray-Boyles front line as well. His recovery down low, coming out of pick and roll as that drop big, recovering onto the roll man is gifted because he's got that physical grind into him and he's got that wingspan as well. The Raptors are building on high vision forwards, and taking Murray-Boyles only continues that trajectory for them. And hopefully if he can sharpen more of that perimeter game as that scorer, which was a massive weak point for him, and limited his ability to actually run those effective pick and pops as well, especially when he doesn't have extreme height size as well, to be able to battle for positioning against most, 5 men in the league, which he might need to go up against a lot of the time. And developing that game as well on the perimeter will only accentuate the off-ball movement and off-ball value that he brings to the game, and will make him a much more portable asset as he enters the NBA. And with the 10th pick, the Houston Rockets selection goes to Phoenix in the Kevin Durant trade, and they no doubt select Khaman Maluach out of Duke, the freshman, 18-year-old, turning 19 in September, so extremely young again, like Cooper Flagg. He averaged 9.7 rebounds and just over a block a game on 71% from the field. That comes to 74% true shooting with all of his splits, 25.5 PER and a 9.9 box plus minus. Tremendous impact on winning at the collegiate level. He brings a 7'1" frame with 250 pounds on him. Only at 18 years old, so he's already filled out very much so. The wingspan, 7'7", the longest wingspan in the draft combine. His standing reach at 9'6", second longest, standing only behind Rocco Zikarsky. Obviously, the speed and mobility, nothing exceptional, but it's about the tremendous size that you get with him and the mobility traits that make him the special talent that he was selected at number 10. Maluach, overall, just absolute defensive anchor, probably the best defensive anchor of this class. I mean, he brings already an established floor to any team that would have drafted him anyways. At Duke, he was very one-dimensional though, only really tasked with the rim deterrence factor and focusing on his screen and roll traits, which he no doubt excelled at, but this did limit the ceiling that we could project for someone so talented before his freshman year. There wasn't much post-up action, hardly any ball handling, no advanced passing stuff that we saw. But we like to believe for an 18-year-old, a guy with such little background in basketball and how much he's already achieved, that he can hopefully develop these small aspects into his game to really fill out this high floor that he can bring to the NBA. Khaman is developed more as a screener. He's relatively mobile. He's got a pretty packed frame. Decent with giving his ball handler good angles to glide downhill with, so he's very sound on that front. But the value that he brings as a screener is obviously capped a little bit. There's no spacing in his arsenal whatsoever. We did see some, I think 4 threes he made on the collegiate level that he did knock down. His jumper's got pretty nice construction to it as well, though, and especially for a guy with a 7'7" wingspan. So maybe in the first few years there may be some growth there in the Phoenix development crew. But overall, he's highly efficient due to the shot palette that he takes. Overall, in terms of contributing highly on the offensive glass, creating second chance opportunities, he's got a pretty decently established touch around the rim. Through all of these things, Maluach will make a spot for himself on Phoenix's weak interior roster. I think he'll sit next to Nick Richards. He brings enough of a floor worth investing in for Phoenix, especially with the frame, the build, the potential for development in other key areas that he may have as well. It's all quite intriguing for him. Obviously, Maluach's defensive value is the money mark for him and what makes him a top 10 and a certified lottery pick in this draft. He's extremely versatile with his drop coverages. He can run, low drop, soft drop, high drop, all relatively well. He's got enough lateral balance as well, though that is an aspect of his game that does need improvement as well. if he wants to reach this all defensive ceiling that he probably has hopes for. He's probably not capable of switching just yet sustainably. Something in the future he may be able to do, and will certainly be a bit matchup dependent early in his career. But he absorbs contact so well with that frame. He projects to be more than just a plus rebounder, and he certainly will be able to anchor a defense in the future. He's a fast learner who will be able to build out more fundamentals in short time with strong development. Phoenix should be very happy that Khaman fell to the 10th pick for them. And that does round out our top 10 picks in the draft. And it is interesting to see what these guys have been able to achieve. I mean, most of these guys are freshmen, one and done prospects, except for Murray-Boyles out of these top 10. And with that lack of long-term collegiate or overseas experience, there comes with a lot of that development potential for the future of these guys. And it will be extremely intriguing to see if teams are willing to give these young guys the time investment that they need to see them realize their best selves as now NBA players and possibly future stars of the NBA.